Welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Shively, the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and I'm on a 1 million pound mission. Now, I've personally lost over 100 pounds, and I've applied what I've learned from my own transformation journey to help my hometown clients lose over 35,000 pounds in just 5 years. Now I'm on a mission to produce over 1 million pounds of results by delivering my best weekly tips, motivation, inspirational stories, and transformation strategies so that you can gain clarity about what you need to do to reach your goals and give you the confidence to take action. And the perfect time to start taking action is right now. So let's do this. This episode is sponsored by you. Yes, that's right. I didn't make a mistake. You guys are going to help me keep this Wednesday episode advertisement free. And you can do that by supporting me as one of my patrons. Now you can go to www.patreon.com/million pound mission and find out how you can become one of my Patreon patrons. Now Patreon is spelled Patreon. So patreon.com/million pound mission. You can sign up to become one of my patrons and get access to my private Million Pound Mission live Facebook group where we're going to be doing live online workouts, live mobility sessions, and live question and answer sessions. I'd love to connect with you guys and get you more involved in this Million Pound mission. So check it out at www.patreon.com/million pound mission. All right, my friends, welcome to another episode of the Million Pound Mission Podcast. It's your buddy Adam, the PhD, the previously heavy dude. How's it going out there in podcast land? I hope you guys are fired up for another great interview. This is a unique one. This is a unique topic we've never talked about before. This is episode 111, What is Your What? With Steve Olsher. So I'm somebody who talks a lot about the why, or the reason behind why you want to achieve your goal. So this week, we're going to focus on finding your what. All right. And Steve is a highly accomplished entrepreneur, coach, podcaster, public speaker, and he's the author of the book, What is Your What? Discover the one amazing thing you were born to do. So listen in on this episode as Steve and I dive into his own entrepreneurial success story and how he reinvented his own life, the difference between our what and our why, and how this all relates to our goals. We dive into one of his favorite recent, very interesting reinvention stories about somebody that totally reinvented their lives out of a tough situation. And he also gives his advice for somebody that's listening out there, one of you guys, it may even be you, that wants to shift the direction that their life is currently heading in. This is an awesome episode. Lots of takeaways, including a free bonus where Steve actually gives us a download where we can get his book for free. How about that? So check it out. Dive on in. And without further ado, here's episode number 111, What is Your What? With Steve Olsher. All right, Steve, welcome to the Million Pound Mission Podcast. How you doing today, my friend?
Good, bud. Appreciate you having me on, man.
Well, I am psyched for many reasons to have you on. I've been listening to your show. I've been connected with you for the last few months here as we'll talk about a little bit later about the New Media Summit. We'll get to that. But I am really psyched because you're a Midwestern guy like me, and you've got one heck of a good story. I love connecting with good old Midwestern boys like ourselves. And what I really want to know is how in the hell did you go from the guy that was selling speakers out of the back of his car from Evanston, Illinois, and now you're being recognized by Founder Magazine as the king of reinvention? How did this happen?
It's it's a long, convoluted story, right? But yeah, man, I've always been wired as an entrepreneur from the time I was old enough to pick a rake up and try to move some leaves around and get paid for it. Trying to shovel sidewalks and driveways, right? Just always trying to figure out how to make a dollar out of that 15 cents, right? And it's just taken me to a million different places. So I think that when you look at my career and just the personal reinvention that I've undergone from as you said, doing it all and selling speakers out of the back of a van to pumping gas to waiting tables to opening my own nightclub and putting a book on the New York Times list and doing over $50 million in real estate development and doing live events and online courses and coaching and mentoring. I think you name it, I've given it a whirl, and Lord knows I've had to reinvent myself a million different times along that path.
Right. So you mentioned reinvention. You are the host of the Reinvention Radio podcast. So how do you define that? Let's dive into the topic of reinvention a little bit and the specifics of, because I know a lot of people that listen to this specific podcast are in need of a little bit of reinvention. So let's dive into that topic a little bit. How do you define a reinvention?
Well, it's interesting because a lot of people think that reinvention or reinventing your life requires you to change a lot of things. And the way I look at it is reinvention really has nothing to do with changing anything about who you are. It's really just getting back to the core, man, to the essence of how you're naturally wired to excel, and really just kind of shedding the shackles of the outfits and personalities and whims and agendas that others have thrown on you over the years, and just getting back to the essence of who you are.
Nice. Now, I think that's a nice little lead in to the what. Now, I talk about the why a lot on this podcast, and one of the things I just really just beat my audience over the head with is that your why has to be greater than the sum of all of your why nots. But you are big on the what, and I find that really, really interesting. So how does your what relate to your why, and why do you feel like the what is so important?
Well, it's interesting. We had Simon Sinek on the show, and we had a nice little semantical debate of the what versus the why, right. But he'll tell you they're one and the same. I think they're different in a lot of ways, but I think the most important way for me is that your what, it isn't necessarily what you do necessarily. It certainly can end up being that, but to me, your what is really comprised of three specific pieces. One is let's just call it the what is your what framework. So the what is your what framework is comprised of three specific pieces. One piece is really having clarity on your core gift, and that is really how you're naturally wired to excel. So that gift could be communicating, or it could be teaching, or healing, or enrolling, or protecting, or something of that nature. But you do have one core gift. And then the question is, how will you share that gift? And so the second part of the what is your what framework is really understanding the primary vehicle that you'll use to share that gift with the world. And then the third piece of the puzzle are the people, and having clarity around the people that you're most compelled to serve. So once you understand your gift, your vehicle, and your people, you actually can do something and literally get started down a path. And, to me, your why is really more of something that you choose. Your what is that which has chosen you. I don't think it's that which you have chosen. And so when you're clear on what your what is, again, this is something that's internal, and it really provides that GPS, if you will, to help you get to wherever it is that you were kind of pre-wired to go. And your why, to me, is very much external, and it's something that you can choose. So your what, just really in its simplest form, is that which is internal, and your why is that which is external.
So correct me if I'm wrong. As I put this together, it seems like the framework would be you can have a goal. You have your why behind the goal. So if you want to lose 100 pounds, then you have the why behind the goal of why that's important to you, why you want to achieve that. Like you said, you're choosing that. But then you try to use your what as the vehicle to get you there, where you're actually taking action with your unique abilities, your skills, and what you were born to do. Is that sounding correct to you?
Yeah, I mean that's pretty spot on for the most part. Yeah, and again, if you think about it from the standpoint of why you would want to lose 100 pounds, oftentimes it's because you look at your friends or your family or something of that nature, or even those that you're most compelled to serve, and you realize that you've got a lot to give and you can help people in a lot of ways. And so if you're not here because you die from obesity, then how are you going to help those people? So at the end of the day, though, again, you usually do it for reasons outside of yourself. I mean, there are, of course, cases where you just simply do it because you choose to become more healthy. I mean, that's certainly fine as well. But reality is that when you compare the two and you look at the two, your why, especially in a health and fitness, from that standpoint, your why usually has to do with the fact that you've got work to do still, and you want to be here to still do it.
Okay, so that makes total sense. So, like you said, you and your buddy Simon Sinek kind of got into the debate a little bit about them being different versus being the same. What was his argument about them being the same? 'Cause I think I tend to side with you on this. I can see a pretty clear difference. What was he saying to debate against that and saying that they were basically the same thing?
Man, I think that if you come right down to it, I don't think he really took the time to understand exactly what I was explaining. And I'll say this, which is he doesn't really have to take the time to understand what I'm talking about, right. And so his thinking was that it's what you do, and it's not really so much as what you do so much as what your DNA is wired to excel at. And so here's what I know. And I think that the biggest difference, if we're just going to kind of chalk it up again to a fundamental difference between the two, is that you can't really fulfill your why effectively until you have clarity around what your what is. So I look at the two as going very much hand in hand, but I think that you can, in fact, live a pretty good life having a why and doing something because of whatever those triggers are for you. But I don't really think you can have an exceptional life until you're completely honed in on really what puts fire in your soul.
Right. So let's do a little what is my what practice. I've been making some notes, as I always tend to do. And it seems like, so using myself as an example, I feel like one of the things I was born to do is to identify problems that exist. I call them danger zones. And whether it's just, working with clients and helping them lose weight, or even just at home with like trying to keep my kids from being so rowdy, those are danger zones. Those are issues. I love to create systems around those and then coach people on how to operate within the systems. And that's kind of my what. That's my unique just gift that I have that I love to do. I could do it all day long. I never deplete that energy resource in that framework. And then the people, obviously with my big goal is the $1 Million Mission. The why behind that is just achieving something to really leaving my mark on this world in a big way. And then I'm using my what, that whole framework like you talked about, to get the job done. So is that seeming like I'm starting to get it a little bit here, Steve?
Well, yes. So the question is, what is that core gift? And as you kind of look at it, it almost seems like, inspiring might be that core gift. But the question is, let's look at it another way. We can kind of back into it. If you had to choose who the people are that you're most compelled to serve, who do you think those folks are?
Yeah, the people that I love to make a difference with are the folks that have kind of come to me after they've tried everything. There's so many people that have lost hope. They've lost, they depleted their willpower. They've tried every program out there. And whether it's a case of them just struggling with the program or not giving it their all or whatever, they just feel kind of beaten down and they start to give up and they start to accept this is just who I am. I'm that overweight person. I can't get healthy. I love to find those people and light them up. And I tell them, you can borrow some of my mojo until you build up your own, but we're going to lock arms and we're going to do this, my friend. So those are the people that I love to serve.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. I don't mean to turn the tables here and take this side of the mic, but I think that they're all related in terms of clarity around your what and the three elements of the what is your what framework to assuming that you're tying this to business somehow. And again, I'm not saying it always has to be tied to business, but in this case, I do think that if you're going to create a business that thrives, you really do need to have clarity around the what is your what framework. And, my challenge to you would be to really dial that in somehow, because I don't know this for a fact, but I bet you're doing well, but I bet you aspire to do a lot better from a revenue perspective. Is that fairly accurate?
Oh yeah, 100% accurate. Yeah, it's something that, I am a couple of years into this online adventure and podcasting and bringing my message out from my hometown into the world.
Yep.
So yeah, we're definitely still in growth mode.
Yeah. And so to that end, what I would say, and this is applicable for you, it's applicable for the listener who really wants to propel what they're doing from a business perspective forward. I believe that your best bet is to pick one subset of the population who could really benefit the most from that fire and how you're naturally wired to excel, and drive that to 6 or mid 6 figures before you branch outside of that particular group. So in other words, for you, maybe it is really just honing in on people who are 100 pounds or more overweight and really just creating products, programs, and services for them to start and go from there, right?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we all tend to get, when we find something that we are passionate about and we're excited about, we toss a lot of energy out there, but a lot of times we go very wide versus going deep, which I think that's what you're talking about there. And that's something that I've noticed about myself, because I'm that type A personality with an idea every other minute, and I love to take action in all of them. But I crave that depth and that connection with my clients. So yeah, I'm 100% on board, and I accept that challenge that you've put out there for me to think a little bit differently.
Yeah, because again, that's the third part of the what is your what framework, the people that you're most compelled to serve. And oftentimes what we find are that the people that we are most compelled to serve are those who are pretty much just reflections of where we've been, right? And our goal, our job is to help them as much as we can to avoid the brain damage and the same trials and tribulations we had to endure. And, kind of just boils down to the old adage of to a second grader or a fifth grader is a god, and right. You just don't have to move that far down the path in order to help someone. You already have enough knowledge.
Right. And leading by example in any field is important, but I feel like especially in health and fitness, that's something I feel like it deepens the connection between myself and my audience and my clients, is that, I've gone through the journey that they want to go through, and that, that helps allow them to trust me and what I'm trying to get them to do. Because a lot of times, people don't want to put down that wine when they're used to having wine every night, or they don't want to, get to the gym at 6 a.m. But when I can kind of say, hey, I've been there, I know what you're going through. It's a game changer for people. So I totally get that.
Yeah, now, totally, man.
So correct me if I'm wrong. I hope I'm not wrong, because that'd be really messing you up here. But can people, you have a What Is Your What book, and I've seen that people can actually get it for free. Is that correct?
No, it is 100% correct.
That's awesome.
We give away the entire book. I don't know if you want to share that link, or I can, but we do actually give it away, because my philosophy is this. Some people just give away like a chapter of their book or a couple chapters or whatever, and that's fine too. But my personal philosophy is that, well, twofold. Certainly from a selfish perspective, we give away the book. Because I do believe that, if you can discover what your what is and go out and make this world a better place, you're going to make this world a better place for me, for my kids, for my, kids, and, and so on and so forth. It's just like putting the first domino in action there. But, that's part of it, is doing that for selfish reasons, right? But we also give away the book for business reasons, which are, and this is, I'm not ashamed or embarrassed to say that, we obviously make, our revenue model, we make a personal living from helping people take the next step on that path, which is sharing and monetizing what their what is. So, once you discover what your what is, it's really step one. The next two steps are sharing and monetizing it. And after having built 4 multi-million-dollar businesses from scratch, I feel I'm pretty qualified to help.
Heck yes. Now, I want to have you touch on one thing that just popped into my head, because I know my audience pretty well. And I know that many of them are thinking, well, I've got a job. I'm an accountant, or, I'm a school teacher, or whatever. And you just said, figuring out what your what is, and then taking action with that and monetizing it. So what if they're just the person that's already in a career and a job? They discover that their what is, they finally discover it, and they want to take action and monetize. Like, is this something that people can do on a part-time basis? Like, how have you seen people actually do this and eventually turn it into a full-time career maybe?
Yeah, look, and it's a great point. And what I will say is this, that, there's a lot of hours in the day. And I've seen it often, actually, where people discover what they're truly fired up to do, and then they quit their day job and they jump in head over heels on it. And, I'm not one to tell you that you shouldn't make that leap. But what I will say is, why wouldn't you want to make that transition on someone else's dime?
Right.
And so what I certainly encourage people to do is to keep that day job, keep that day job and go ahead and use those morning hours. Waking up at 6 a.m. or whatever it might be, use those morning hours to start fulfilling your what. Use those evening hours, turn off the binge watching of Breaking Bad or whatever you're doing, turn it off, and use those weekends to really begin sharing and monetizing your what with strategic abandon. And you kind of got to look at it like a recipe mixture. Like right now, 100% of your income is derived from what you don't want to be doing. But as soon as that first dollar comes in from sharing your what in a meaningful way, well, then that recipe mixture starts to shift, right? So you get to that 99.9% of your income being derived from what you don't want to do, and 0.1 being derived from what you do. And as you stay the course and more of your income is derived from what you do, well, then it's 90-10 and 80-20 and 70-30 and 60-40 and so on and so forth, until you get to the point where enough of your income is being derived from what you really want to do, so that you can cut the rope. And that boils down for many of us to really understanding what it is that we want versus what it is that we need in terms of how we're living. And I say that from the standpoint of right now, maybe what you want is that 3-bedroom house and the, good car and the going out to eat 2 or 3 times a week or whatever it might be. And you've got $4,000 a month in expenses. And so, you want to put a little bit of money away. So your monthly nut is $4,500. Let's just call it $5,000. And if you, for a while, move into that studio apartment, and as my buddy Dave Ramsey says, you go rice and beans and rice for a while, and you take public trans, and you get that monthly nut down to $2,500 for, a period of time. Well, you also just cut down that transition, where instead of it taking you, 2 years to full on make that transition, maybe getting to that $2,500 a month could take you a year. And that's where understanding what you want versus what you need is really, really important.
Yeah, I love that. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I remember the first time that I made money online from an online course from somebody that I didn't know that just signed up because they saw like an ad that I put out on Facebook. I was like, oh my God. I started emailing everybody. It was like $9 also, like a $9 sale. I was like,
nice.
This is amazing. So,
nice.
And just like I could have sold like $1,000 gym membership at my fitness facility and not been as excited about that. I'm like, wow, that was amazing. I remember emailing people like, I made money online to somebody that I do not know. That is crazy. But it's very powerful. So I think, just like you said, when you get connected with your passion, with your what, and it starts to actually come to fruition, and you start to see that dream come true. It's a pretty special thing. So now with your podcast, Reinvention Radio, I know that you've been able to inspire so many people, and I know there are a lot of stories that have come out of this. And I hate to put you on the spot and make you choose, and I'm not going to ask for your favorite reinvention stories, but maybe just like one or two really powerful ones that just are top of mind that you think could kind of, get my audience a little psyched about. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of amazing stories from folks who have reinvented their lives and gone from point A to point Z over the years. Let me just share sort of a common thread first, and then I'll share a story.
Yes. That's great.
But, one of the things that I find really interesting is a lot of the people we have on the shows who have been able to create some pretty interesting lives and would have what most of us would look at as success certainly in the business world. Not sure about their personal lives, but most of them in the business world that have success. What I found as a common thread that's pretty interesting is a lot of the people we have on actually are immigrants who came here from another country and had almost nothing when they arrived. It's really interesting to see how many stories there are, not first generation where their parents were born here. I mean, they are they came here as kids, or they came here as teens or something of that nature. And, there's just something about that fulfillment of living the American dream that the rest of the world seems to have that so many of us here just don't have anymore. And it's really interesting to see how many people have done really, really well because they're willing to just do whatever it takes to fulfill that American dream that the rest of the world has been promised that so few of us actually fulfill. So, I find that to be a really interesting thread among a lot of the people that we've had on. And, we've also had people on that, of course, and I'm not going to sit here and drop names, but one of the things that I love doing actually is being one of the first media outlets to break stories of people that the public doesn't know. And one of my favorite stories, actually, and we were one of the first media outlets to feature them, is the story of these four amazing girls known as the Lucci quadruplets. And the Lucci quads, when they came on the show, they were already all in their late teen years, early 20s. But their stories, and I'll just keep it fairly brief here, but their stories, they grew up in Beverly Hills, had what everybody would term as the Beverly Hills lifestyle, big house, big cars, the whole nine. And there were three brothers, so there were seven siblings in total, Lucci quads, and then three brothers. And they, on the surface, seemed to really have it all. But behind closed doors, it was really bad. Father was abusive mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually, and mom was checked out. She just wasn't stable and she wasn't doing anything to protect her kids. And there were times where mom, would just stand by idly as dad fed the kids and wouldn't feed, fed the boys and wouldn't feed the girls, or he would, bring clothes for the boys or wouldn't bring clothes for the girls. Like just all the things that you would chalk up to is just like, God, that's just awful. And at one point there, while the girls were about 8, Dad decided he had enough of whatever it was that he felt like he had enough of, and he left and took the 3 boys with him. And so Mom, who again was mentally unstable, was left with these 4 girls to fend for themselves. One day, about a month later, Mom decided she was going to go out and get groceries, and she never came back.
Wow.
And so you had those 4 girls in that big house with no parents. And needless to say, it wasn't long before the Department of Children and Protective Services came in, and the girls were thrust into the foster care system, pretty much overnight. So they went from this big, huge house to carrying their belongings in trash bags and bouncing from house to house to house in the foster care system. And they ended up finding an amazing couple who brought in all 4 girls and raised them as if they were their own. And they become just these incredible young women. They all graduated from high school. They've all graduated. They've all gone on to college. And instead of being really bitter and terribly upset about everything that happened, what they've decided to do is really band together and try to bring to light the atrocities that take place in the foster care system, because we know that there are a lot of families who just take in these kids for the paycheck, and some of it's really, really bad out there. And so they're doing whatever they can do to band together as the Quads here now to shed light on what goes on there in the foster care system. And like I said, we were one of the first to share their story, and it's one of my favorite stories to share.
And that's got to make you feel so good too, that like you can be a part of shining a light on their story, and they're taking that momentum and just inspiring people and helping them, just giving them some hope. So that's awesome, man. I know that a lot of my audience members, I kind of alluded to this earlier, they have had some struggles in their lives, and they may be ready for a change of the path that their life's direction's been going in. When we talk about reinvention, if you could basically sit that person down, look them in the eye, and give them a little bit of advice, like what are the first couple of steps that you think somebody should take when they're trying to reinvent themselves or just redirect the path that their life is on currently?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really do think, as simple as it sounds, that it all just starts with sort of that light switch moment of making the decision to try and do whatever you can do to discover what your what is. Most people go through life without ever really trying to hone in on how they're naturally wired to excel. And that's because, we don't teach this in schools. These aren't conversations we have around the dinner table. And I think it's just super important to start there and make that decision to figure out what your what is, and know that you were meant and made for more, and meant and made to live an extraordinary life. And it doesn't mean extraordinary in terms of wealth. It just means it's extraordinary in terms of being able to help those that you're most compelled to serve, and do so in your own unique way. So that's certainly where I would start, which is just making the commitment to figuring that out. And then the second easy step there on the path is, let's just simply commit the time needed to discover what that is. And then, of course, once you discover what that is, the third step would be, of course, to begin sharing and monetizing it.
Right. And just taking action. I talk about that all the time. Having goals, goal setting is fun. Goal achieving is what we're after, and we've got to get in action to make any sort of difference. For things to change, we have to change. Now, I want to be respectful of your time, Steve, but I want to make sure that people are able to connect with you, because you're putting a lot of great information out there, whether it's your blog, your podcast, your book. So what is the best way to connect with you and follow your story?
Well, I mean, look, you mentioned Reinvention Radio, right? So I think that's a great place to start and see if you like that show, and if you like what we're about, what we stand for. And of course, if you want to grab a free copy of the book, What Is Your What, as we mentioned earlier, you can go to whatisyourwhat.com and you can grab a free copy of the entire book. And I'd love to hear what you think of it.
Excellent. I will link that up in the show notes as well, of course. Now, I also want to give you a shout out for the New Media Summit, because you and I are going to be connected at this event out in San Diego here in just a couple of weeks. This episode should be airing on the 28th of March, so less than a month away. We will be out there rocking the stage. So just let's talk a little bit about the New Media Summit before I let you go, as I can't let you go without plugging that for sure.
Well, I appreciate that. And so the New Media Summit, it is a unique event where not only do we teach people how to leverage and monetize the power of new media, but it is the only event where we bring in 40 of the world's leading podcasters and give 150 attendees the opportunity to not only meet them and break bread with them and hang with them over the course of those 3 days, but we do set aside pitch time for the attendees to pitch the icons, pitch the podcasters on who they are and what they do, and literally get booked on the spot. So everybody who comes to the New Media Summit gets booked on shows. We've got a 100% track record on that, and it's a very unique event from that standpoint.
It's awesome, man. I love the concept. I love your energy around it. I just can't wait to get out there and just try to add a little bit of the Adam mojo as well. So, Steve, I want to thank you so much for taking some time here for me today. I know you got a super busy schedule, and you're somebody that I look up to in the podcasting space. And so I love what you're doing. I look up to the message that you're putting out there. I feel like it's so needed. And you know, in a world full of news that kind of just seems to be bringing a lot of people down, you're out there shining a light on a topic of reinvention that people really need and they can use, and you're impacting so many people in a positive way. So I just want to say I appreciate you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate you as well, man. And geez, you know, if we can get that 1 million pound mission fulfilled, I mean, God, how much of a difference would that make in people's lives? So love that, brother. Keep up
awesome.
that
and you're a part
work.
of it. So anybody that's out there that's going to be inspired by this show, I want to know about it. Make sure that you connect with Steve and myself on social. I'll make sure you guys know how to do that in the show notes. And like Steve said, we are all in this together. We're out there trying to achieve this mission. And normally I leave the little 24-hour action step challenge up to you guys, but I'm going to give you specific homework. I want you to go to the link in the show notes and go to whatisyourwhat.com. I want you to download the free copy of Steve's book. You will not regret it. And I want to know, once you go through the process and you start discovering what your what is, I want to know what it is. I want you to tell me, whether it's on social or just hit me up through the email on our website. I would love to know what that is. And once you know your what, the thing is that your life's direction could totally change. And we want to hear about that as well. So thanks to Steve. Thanks to all you guys out there for listening. And as always, I want to challenge you to get out there and own it every meal, every workout, every day. I will see you on the next episode. Hang on just 1 second before you go anywhere, everybody. I've got a huge favor to ask of you, all right? We are in this together. We are doing this 1 million pound mission together as a community. And I'm so excited about the progress we've made so far. We're going to keep building it one person, one transformation, one voice at a time. It starts with my voice blasting into this microphone, giving you everything I've got, trying to inspire you and motivate you and give you the tools that you need to make those transformation dreams come true. The next voice is your voice sharing it with somebody else. Let somebody know that this will make an impact for them, that it inspired you and it might inspire them. If you really want to go all out, share this episode on your favorite social media platform. And if you do, please tag me so that I can give you a great big thank you. That's it. Share this out with one person that you think you can make an impact with, that can make a difference with, and I'll be so, so grateful for you. We're in it together. 1 million pound mission. It's on, my friend.